Hello everybody, welcome to Monday Morning Must Knows. My name is Merlin and here are 3 things to pay attention to for the upcoming trading week. First off, we'll start out with earnings. It's the bottom of the barrel with regards to earnings. A lot of relatively small companies. There aren't many reporting. There's only 105 reporting this week. So we'll start things off not on Monday because there's really nothing going on. Not on Tuesday, really nothing going on. Let's kick things off on Wednesday. That's right, we've got KB Homes, Steelcase, and Winnebago, the darling of the COVID stay-at-home or drive around the country movement. Also KB Homes, we had some very interesting news from Toll Brothers and some of the home builders, so keep your eye on KB Homes on Wednesday. On Thursday brings you FedEx, BlackBerry, Rite Aid, and Accenture, and Friday, a real quiet day, but an important one because you have PayChex and then CarMax. And if you look at the numbers from the Fed, there is a huge spike in the cost of used cars because of the chip shortage and a new car issue going on. So we'll see how CarMax does. Next, we're going to look at manufacturing. Now, this one's really important to me. Why? Well, manufacturing is critical for the growth of an economy. And if you listen to Jerome Powell's speech last week on Wednesday when he did his FOMC Open Market Committee speech, he was saying the economy is looking great. Our numbers look great. We are robust. We've got a full labor market. Things are looking great. Are they really? If you look at the Empire State Manufacturing Index as well as the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index, those numbers are slowly declining. They are growing overall, but they have been dropping month over month. Now, what does that mean to us? Well, on Wednesday, we have 3 announcements coming out. So it's not just the U.S., it's the whole world, and see how their manufacturing is doing. We start things off Wednesday bright and early in the morning at 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with the Euro coming out with their manufacturing numbers. And just before that, you also have France and Italy, but at 4 is the entire European Union. We move on to a little bit later on, 30 minutes to be precise, the British pound will be reporting at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then finally, the U.S. dollar, 9:45 Eastern Standard Time, we get that announcement for the U.S. markets. And it is, of course, a pretty big one. Now, finally, we've been talking over the past several months on this program about inflation. We've looked at lumber, we've looked at corn, we looked at soybeans, we looked at just inflation overall with CPI, PPI. Next week, we've got some really big announcements happening on the inflation front. And that brings us to a discussion that a lot of people have been talking about, which is the inflation trade. Well, what the heck is it? And are you too late if you're jumping on that inflation trade now? Historically, when we have a high inflation run-up, we generally see specific market segments move with that. And that is generally commodities, more specifically, the bellwether of them all, gold. So let's take a peek at gold and see what's happening, because if you fell for this trap that the industry has put on you saying you got to go for the inflation trade, you got caught last week. It's really about identifying key supply or demand zones to make better, more informed, higher probability trades. So let's look what happened out here with gold. Here we can see the price of gold over the past 2 weeks sold off aggressively, a very, very sharp decline. So when we're potentially looking at an inflation trade, something that we can capitalize on a rising inflation rate, yes, gold could be an alternative, but we want to make sure we find the right levels. There is a nice demand zone coming up here on gold. Now, what's unfortunate for a lot of retail investors is they were probably buying into that hype and jumping onto gold when it was up around 1920. But now that it's down around 1,700, it becomes much more attractive, especially when you look at the long-term picture. Now, that said, make sure you have an overall plan of how to look at the inflation trade, and don't fall for the media's hype saying that you have to do the inflation trade. Step back, look at the data. Next week, we've got Wednesday with some very important manufacturing numbers, and on Friday, you also have the PCE price index numbers, which is one of the favorite metrics for the Fed to look at inflation. If the timing is right and it looks appropriate, then you might want to look at the inflation trade for your portfolio. We'll see you next week on Monday Morning Must Knows.